Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're a Helldivers 2 player, you've probably been following the constant updates and surprises from Arrowhead. Well, today we're diving into some major leaks that have surfaced from a well-known source, IronSights, and it looks like a familiar enemy is about to make a return. Let's break it all down.
Oh shit, here we go again.
In earlier tweets, IronSights outlined what's next after the Terminids. The Automatons are getting a big focus, all while building up to the eventual arrival of another buff for the Illuminate. This matches what we've heard before. Helldivers 2 is expanding faction by faction, and the Illuminate are still on the horizon. IronSights recently tweeted that some leaks are getting out, and confirmed that an old foe is joining the galactic war in Helldivers 2, the Cyborgs. This is huge news for veterans of the first game. The Cyborgs were one of the original factions, and their return suggests Arrowhead is bringing back classic enemies while expanding the war. Now, for newer Helldivers who might have not fought in the first galactic war, let's talk about who the Cyborgs really are. This isn't just a new enemy, it's a homecoming for a faction with deep, dark lore. In the first game, the Cyborgs, who called themselves the Collective of Cyberstan or the Cyborg Nation, were one of the three primary enemies. Their origin story is a brutal piece of Super Earth history. They began as dissident citizens who rejected managed democracy and turned to the ancient, forbidden ideology of socialism. But their rebellion wasn't just political, it was physical. They became obsessed with cybernetic enhancements, grafting more and more machinery onto themselves, believing it gave them a higher meaning in life. This created a new ethnic and cultural identity so aberrant to Super Earth that the Cyborgs were driven out. They fled to a frozen, barren planet, which they named Cyberstan, and declared their independence. Super Earth, still scared by a previous socialist rebellion at Northman's Creek, immediately labeled them terrorists. For a while, there was a tense, cold peace. Super Earth disdainfully allowed their secession, but the spark for war came with a terrorist bombing in District 48. A cyborg detonated a bomb, killing 8 civilians. Super Earth officials like Dr. Hank Ploig and Senator John W. Killjoy instantly blamed the Cyborg Nation. Now, here's the chilling part of the lore. Many citizens believed it was a false flag operation, an attack staged by Super Earth itself to justify exterminating the cyborgs. Those who voiced this theory were dismissed as hippies or cyborg sympathizers and were jailed or executed. Whether it was real or a setup, the result was the same: total war. This history makes their potential return in Helldivers 2 a bit more significant. The Automatons we fight now are their direct descendants, the next step in their mechanical evolution. The Cyborgs weren't just mindless enemies, they were a tragic, ideological mirror to Super Earth, a warning of what happens when you reject liberty. Fighting them was a bit messy, morally grey war, steeped in propaganda and atrocity. If the leaks are true, and the Cyborgs are returning as a distinct faction, it means we might be diving back into the dark chapters. Will they be allies to the Automatons, a splinter group, or a rediscovered progenitor race? I honestly think this opens up a huge narrative potential about the true cost of Super Earth's freedom. This deep lore context is why IronSights calling them an old foe carries so much weight. It's not just a new enemy type, it's a piece of living history returning to the galactic war. And speaking of returns, let's look at what their units might look like. One of the units shown is the Cyborg Elite, though IronSights clarified that there are no stats or deep functionality for these units yet. They're still in the early phases. Another leak shows a new stratagem. It kind of looks like a mini tank, and it's called the TD-220 Bastion. IronSights isn't sure if the model or functions are finished, but it has an icon and was part of the recent Slim Branch leak. He did mention that he'd rather share this info themselves rather than let it come out maliciously. They've even invited questions from the community, whether you see them as a leaker or an insider. They're clearly someone with access, and they're shaping how we learn about upcoming content. IronSights did drop another leak, this time a massive unit called the Siege Engine. And bro, this thing looks like a menace, I'm not even gonna lie. Now, IronSights mentioned that the models is being tricky and not wanting to load in properly, but even from this angle, you can tell that this thing is gonna be a problem. It's huge, heavily armored, and looks like a walking fortress. And are those 2 Helldiver helmets in there? Man, this is exactly the kind of escalation we should expect. But think about this in the context of cyborg history. The original cyborgs were obsessed with merging flesh with machine to achieve a higher purpose. Their descendants, the Automatons, perfected pure mechanical warfare. This siege engine feels like the horrific synthesis of both philosophies. It's not just a robot, it's a hulking, brutalist, almost organic menace that the old cyborg walkers had, but scaled up with an automaton level technology. So, to recap, the Cyborgs, a faction born from the Socialist Rebellion and cybernetic obsession, are poised to return. Their legacy lives on in the Automatons, but now they might be bringing their own nightmarish creations like the siege engine to the front lines. The galactic war is about to get a lot more complicated and a lot more personal for veterans of the first game. If you made it this far in the video, drop a like, subscribe, and let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Are you excited for these new enemy types? Do you happen to be one of the veterans that used to play the first game? How do you feel about the new enemies coming in right now? Also, what do you think about this new stratagem? What do you think the siege engine's weak point will be? Are you ready to face the ghost of Cyberstan? Again, thank you guys for watching this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.